Welcome to the meeting of Warwick District Council on 3rd of December at the Town Hall, Royal Leamington Spa. My name is Naveen Tangri, Chairman of the Warwick District Council. Before we consider the agenda, I remind those present of the emergency procedure. There are no planned tests of the emergency alarm. If the alarm does sound, everyone present must leave by the designated exit route via the main reception. If the preferred route is blocked, use the nearest signed alternative route. Do not use the lift. Everyone must assemble at the designated point, which is on the Regent Grove. Members of the public and press should report to a member of reception team who will be wearing a yellow fluorescent jacket. Councillors and officers should report to the committee officer. Please do not re-enter the building until the fire officer advises that it is safe to do so. As a part of Council's commitment to reducing the use of paper, councillors and officers may use electronic devices during the meeting. Going to item 1, apologies. I have apologies from Councillor Alison Firth. Are there any other apologies or absence?
Council Russo is potentially is running late, so should be here shortly.
Thank you. Item 2, declaration of interest. Members, are there any declarations? No? Thank you. In 3 minutes. Item 3 minutes to approve the minutes of 12th of November council meeting. Please, can I have a proposer and seconder for the minutes of 12th of November council meeting? Councillor Davison? Councillor King, thank you. Any speakers? No? Can I take a vote for that? Everybody agree with the minutes? Yeah. All right, thank you. Item 4, communication and announcements. Since we last met on 12th of November, I have attended 6 events in my capacity as chairman, including attending both the Leamington and Witness Christmas light switch on. Both events had a good turnout by the public, and it was wonderful to see families, young people, and older generation gathered together to welcome the start of festive period in the lead up to Christmas and New Year. What a wonderful time of the year we are now in, where everyone is excited and more generous than normal. As you are aware, Warwick District Council has set up a gifting Christmas tree setup at the Town Hall and Saltisworth 1, so members of staff can donate presents and food to struggling local families to help spread the Christmas cheer. Thank you. Petitions, I can confirm I have no business on the agenda under item 5, petitions. Item 6, notices of motion. Councillors, we have 2 notices of motion before us for consideration that we are circulated separately to the agenda. As I said on 12th of November, I am grateful to the councillors proposing and seconding these motions to allow them to come to this meeting, which allowed sole focus on local government reorganization on 12th of November. The 2 motions are in respect of purchase of Section 106 homes by the council and in respect of provision of temporary accommodation for families, which I'll take in order. I remind council that both of these relate to executive functions and therefore agreed will require a report to cabinet from officers in respect of any proposed actions. I will take the motion in respect of the purchase of Section 106 homes by the council. Councillor Matiski, please can you propose a motion and in line with council procedure rules set out in your motion and reason for bringing it to the council?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So you've all got the motion in front of you, and this has been brought forward today by 2 previous portfolio holders for housing, because at our recent council meeting held on the 22nd of October, it became clear that the current cabinet did not have a full understanding of the position regarding the Section 106 homes they were proposing to purchase. That lack of clarity is a risk to the council, to residents and to the principles we stand for. This motion seeks to address that gap and ensure that every acquisition is informed, responsible and aligned with our values. This motion is about making smart choices for the future when we buy Section 106 affordable homes. We should make sure they are not only good for residents but also good for the council and for the planet. Right now, some developments leave families paying additional high service charges to private companies that could be easily avoided and only lines the pockets of the developers. That's simply not fair. This motion asks that we only buy homes where roads and green spaces will be adopted by public authorities, not only to protect this council from potential unexpected and uncontrolled costs, but also to protect all residents living on these developments by ensuring they aren't stuck with these extra costs. It also asks that every home we acquire meets strong environmental standards. Homes should be energy efficient, low carbon and designed for sustainable living. That means better insulation, clean heating, good drainage and safe routes for walking and cycling. These steps help us fight climate change and reduce bills for residents. Finally, we want clear checks and annual reports. So this is about transparency and accountability. This is our chance to lead, to say that affordable housing in this district will be truly affordable, climate friendly and built for the future. Let's make decisions today that protect residents and our environment for the years to come. And I ask for your support for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Metesky. Councillor Whiteman, do you want to second this motion or you want to reserve your right to speak?
I'll reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very supportive of the principles set out in this motion. I think there may be some practical issues, and one of the things I'd like to suggest feeding into it is particularly about point number 1, because affordable housing units, as we know through our planning process, are pepper-potted around large estates, which may mean that they end up in areas where not so close to the green spaces or where there may be roads which may not be adopted. So what I would like to feed into the discussion, bring forward to in the paper that's being brought forward to Cabinet, is a suggestion as to how the planning process and the planning permission can be used in order to make sure that those houses, affordable houses offered under Section 106 agreements, are positioned in a way that the problems set out in point 1 of the motion do not occur, so that they're not sort of put down private roads and they're not put in areas which are a long distance from green spaces or far away from bus routes and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Booth.
Thank you. Yes, I go along with that to a certain extent, but the concern I have is we try to pepper pot affordable homes across the community to represent the community. And if this is what's holding it up, we need to be more proactive in trying to stop these licenses being granted to developers to set up companies to do the maintenance. There's no need for it. It's paid for on the council tax. So we really ought to be saying, no, we're not approving anything that has unadopted roads, because they give us all kinds of problems, not necessarily us, but Severn Trent and the County Council had problems years ago on the Woodlows, where they weren't adopted for years and years and years, because they weren't up to standard. It's all about standards. So it's important that we get the standards right and that the costs are met out of the general purse through council tax. Because I think the important thing is that affordable homes should be dispersed amongst the community. Or as I normally put it, the most expensive homes should be dispersed, which I think is a better way of putting it. So anything we can do to make that happen and to keep that principle, I would support.
Thank you, Councillor. Any Councillor Chilvers?
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I strongly agree with the principle here that we should not be purchasing shoddy or substandard properties or ones that are incurring extra burdens on residents. And I think we need to be sending as strong a message as possible all the way through the system so that developers don't even try and get away with it. And I think they need to hear that message at every stage, and we need to use all of the levers we have available to do that. I do think we need to, you know, as this motion kind of goes forward and is worked on, we're going to need to be really smart about it, about what we can and can't do, and there is the risk of, because we still want that option, have as many options as S106 purchases available to us, but we want to make sure that the ones we're buying are of a good standard. So, yeah, I hope that Councillor Mateki and Whiteman and others will continue to work on what actually this means and sharpen it up so that we can get a really kind of crunchy report that comes through and that developers look at and go, not going to get away with what we used to. We need to make sure that we do deliver so that actually then we are able to buy the council houses that we all want to see for our residents, and we're not limited in our choices.
Thank you. Councillor Fall.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think we all know how difficult it is working with management companies. If we've got an issue with WDC or WCC, we know who to go to, who we can talk to, and how we get things done. Try and get through to a management company of any of the builders is a nightmare. The residents get very annoyed because they think we should be able to do something, and we can't, other than trying to talk to the management company. So I think it's about accountability as well here. We want decent facilities for all our residents. We shouldn't have to keep fighting because they're not getting the response they want from the management companies. So I will fully support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Councillor Tangri. To complete the full house of former housing portfolio holders, along with Councillor Matesky and Councillor Whiteman, I'm very happy to support this motion. I think it's a very sound motion here, and I hope that the current portfolio holder, that Councillor Melrose, you're also able to support the motion. I would have liked to have seen a bit more specific in item 2, the inclusion of solar panels as de facto standard on all our houses. When you look and going along the A46 at some of the new Kenilworth houses, you see half of them do and half of them don't. In fact, I think you can probably find that it's the council ones that do have solar and it's the private ones that don't have solar. And I know at the time when we did the local plan back in 2017, when myself, Councillor Reid, Councillor Granger and Councillor Mobbs were pushing for solar as a standard, it wasn't legislatively possible at that particular time, but I hope now that we can. The other point I also should make about Section 106 houses and council housing in general, I think maybe in the local plan, this is maybe perhaps more for Councillor King, that we ought to be looking at space standards as well. Parker Morris has always been the standard, but we haven't had that applied in this district for some while. I think we ought to be looking at decent standard size homes. When you actually go through some of the new homes, you do realise how small some of the rooms are. But this is at the edge of this motion. I'm very happy to support my former portfolio holders as well. And, oh, yes, it's Councillor Bode. I think you were a former portfolio holder as well. Yes, so there's 4 of us. So that is the full house now. Or is that 4 aces? I don't know. I'll leave you to judge that.
Councillor Melrose.
Thank you, Chair. I want to acknowledge the work of my predecessors for speaking or bringing the motion forward. I think the principle, I think everyone in this room could agree the principle of this motion. You know, responsible acquisition of Section 106s, protecting the residents' strong environmental standards. I don't think you'll find anyone disagreeing on that. I support the report coming to Cabinet. I think it needs to lay out all the opportunities and risks, including any implications it potentially could have to the housing revenue account. Because obviously this won't be a decision for the next 2 years. It could be whatever unitary happens. I would also believe that whenever this report does come to Cabinet, it should go to housing scrutiny. So all councillors can examine and scrutinise it before it comes to Cabinet. It's also, some of this is quite legislative. I think Warwick District is not the only issue that is suffering with the management companies. So I'd hope Councillor Mateki and Councillor White would agree. I'd welcome an amendment that we write to our MPs about what we want to do with this report and actually get them to campaign on the national legislatively change. So overall, I'm supportive of the motion, and I'd hope Councillor Mateki and Councillor Whiteman would accept my amendment, and Councillor Phillips would accept it coming to Housing Scrutiny Work Programme.
May I have a brief point of order as chairman of the Housing Scrutiny Committee? I'm very happy to accept that proposal from Councillor Melrose.
Councillor Whiteman.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say why I'm supporting and seconding this motion, underlying this motion, I think we all need to bear in mind there is a wider issue that stretches beyond the Warwick District. I think the model of estate charges and what's commonly called fleasehold is really not a good model. It's quite widespread, but it is actually providing an extremely poor quality of service to a lot of residents in new builds up and down the country. And it's extremely unfair in that it is requiring residents who are already paying full council tax to pay additional contributions for what are just public spaces on top of their council tax, and they have no additional rights to any other member of the public. There's something deeply unfair about that, which is why it's become nicknamed fleasehold. It's basically a great scam by some of the housing building companies to increase their revenue, it strikes me. And the experience everybody has had with management companies, I think, is fairly consistent. It is not providing good value for money. It is actually consistently providing poor quality, and the administration costs often dwarf sometimes the amount that's actually being spent on maintenance. So I think when we come to purchase it, it's twofold, really, the reason for supporting it in regards to the first item. Firstly, we are dealing with an HRA, which is a finite pot, and it's an extremely important pot that is there to address local housing need. We do not want to be victims of this charge, which is a scam. We need to be extremely careful what we're buying. It's something that we need to use it to the best possible extent that we can address housing need, and we don't want to be seen to be hoovering up the dross, if we like, that basically other people don't want to buy. There is an element in regards to the second part. Somebody who brought forward 2 papers where there were large-scale acquisitions of sort of windfall properties where they weren't built to the DBT standards, simply because we have been balancing the environmental need and the need to meet the environmental crisis with the need to meet housing need and the housing crisis. But things don't stand still on this. We are ultimately on a journey to try and address an environmental crisis, and having made 2 large acquisitions of additional properties to address housing need, I think now with the Kenilworth sites we talked about a development plan that would go beyond the DPD. That should be a baseline, and I think moving forwards we do want to ensure that what we are purchasing provides maximum value for residents, and we do in the longer term need to bear in mind that if we're buying properties of lower environmental quality, we may have to retrofit down the line, so it probably is a false economy anyway. We are building some estates as a result of this underlying model that aren't really meeting the needs of residents. For me, adoption is the way forward, and although it isn't in the hands of Warwick to do that unilaterally, I mean, the Labour government was elected on a promise of addressing the injustice of fleasehold. There's been some great noises coming, but at the moment we haven't seen that materialise into action. I hope it does in due course. But I think in the meantime, we can be doing what we can do. And I think we certainly, as a local authority, shouldn't be purchasing any properties that are subject to these charges. And we do as well need to be providing maximum value by ensuring there are standards. Now, there are some complexities here. We know that when the paper comes forward, they're going to need to be ironed out. I don't know procedurally whether I talk about the request for an amendment, but I'm very happy in terms of the leasehold. I think you'll get that to support the idea that we do also write and say that the underlying issue should be addressed.
Thank you, Councillor Whiteman. Any other speakers? No? So I'll just vote on that. Councillor Medeski, please.
Thank you, Chair. So thank you for all your comments. Yeah, I don't have any problems with writing to the MPs. That really isn't a problem at all. I think this is all about us setting a standard. We did it before with our builds, where we set out how we would build our homes with the developers. We insisted that we built them to a higher standard, a net zero in use standard, and we were setting an example to the builders. And some of the builders actually said that in future they would have all their private homes that way as well. So I think it is about us setting an example. And in terms of the Section 106 homes that we're talking about, making sure there's no management charges, Councillor Kennedy makes some very good points, but I've actually phrased the motion so that it includes the whole development. This isn't the case of just we're going to put the homes in there. That's not the case. The development has the roads adopted. So this not only safeguards us, but it safeguards all our residents. And I think Councillor Day and Councillor Collins know this is going on in Bishop's Tatchbrook quite badly at the moment. And I totally agree with Councillor Whiteman. Residents in these developments are paying twice. They're paying the council tax and they're paying for nothing really except lining developers' pockets. If they start learning that we're not going to be taking them up, then hopefully they're going to talk to us. And I think when it comes to the second part, the standard of the homes that we built, I think we need to send a message to developers. If they're wanting this council to be taking on their Section 106 homes, they have to be talking to us early. We've shown it can be done. The last administration did it with every development that we brought forward after we declared a climate emergency. So there's no reason why the developers can't start talking to us early about what we would require and make sure that they build the homes to the standard that we want and not what they want. So thank you for all your comments, and I hope you can all support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Medeski. Councillor Malroy Singh, Monitoring Officer, wanted to clarify something.
Through you, Chair, just to make sure I understand the proposed amendment, which I believe has been accepted, what I'm understanding is essentially in the first line where it says, to ensure responsible acquisition of Section 106, this council requests a report to housing scrutiny before going to Cabinet. And then in terms of writing to the MPs, did you want to write to the MPs now or when that report was concluded so you've got the evidence to back up that letter to the MPs?
I would suggest once we've got the report and we can then present the report with the letter.
Thank you, Chairman. That's what I anticipated.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Can I take a vote on this? Who are in support of this motion? Against? Abstain? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. We now move to the second motion in respect of the provision of temporary accommodation. Councillor K. Dixon, please can you propose the motion in line with council procedure? Set out your motion and reasons for bringing it to the council.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm proposing this motion as set out in your papers, and in the background you will see my motivation for proposing. The context for me is that I'm encountering an increasing number of vulnerable residents in temporary accommodation with increasingly complex needs. This is both in my professional life as a midwife and as a Warwick District resident. We heard last night at Housing Scrutiny that we have an increasing number of rough sleepers and increasing lengths of stay in temporary accommodation. This problem is getting bigger. There are particular risks associated with families and children in unstable housing. As a council, we have a safeguarding duty which can be best met by working with other agencies such as education and health partners. Hence, I will commend the motion to you all.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Can I ask Councillor Melrose to second, or you want to reserve your right to speak?
I'll reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Matiski.
Chair, I'd like to raise a point of order first, please. I want to make an amendment to this. So can I put forward the amendment and then speak after, or can I only speak once and put forward the amendment?
You can speak.
Apologies, Councillor. I was just saying. So, through you, Chair, if you're proposing an amendment, you can speak to the amendment and propose the amendment. Then you get to close before we vote on that amendment. I say we, Council votes on that amendment. Then, if need be, you can speak on the original motion, which is either yours as a substantive or the motion as proposed at the moment.
So if I may, Chair, I'd like to propose an amendment. So I want to start by saying that I fully support this motion, but I have some issues with points 2 through to 5. And I think these proposals start to blur the lines between what we do as a district council and what the county council does. The county council has a statutory duty and responsibility for children's services and family welfare. They have the expertise, the teams and the legal mandate. If we start coordinating family support or welfare checks, we risk duplicating services. And this could confuse families and is stepping into territory that isn't ours. The problem I have with this is that if something goes wrong, families could challenge us for acting beyond our authority. And that's not just inefficient, it's unlawful. And we already have such problems with another issue where our authority has been challenged. Collaboration, yes, I totally agree with that, absolutely. Overreaching our legal responsibilities, absolutely not. So what I propose to amend the motion is I'm happy with point 1 as it is. What I propose is to modify point 2 so it reads, strengthening liaison with local education and health partners to ensure effective communication and coordination when families are placed in temporary accommodation. And points 3 to 5 to be deleted. And the reasons behind this, for point 2, instead of requesting lists, which can be bureaucratic and would need constant updating, the focus is placed on proactive liaison and communication, and it keeps it strategic rather than operational. Points 3 to 5, I believe, are very process-driven and involve direct contacts with schools and GPs, which is typically a county council social services responsibility, and including them would create confusion or duplication of roles. Removing them keeps the motion within this council's remit. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Well, is that seconded?
Sorry.
Is that amendment seconded?
Is that amendment, Councillor Day?
Chairman, I'd like to second the amendment,
Thank you.
and I reserve my right to speak.
Any other speakers? Councillor Dixon, you happy with this amendment?
I am happy absolutely with what Councillor Matetsky has said about point 2, about the change of wording there. I think that's a wise move. I am reluctant to remove the other points, just because I think we do have we are simply talking in those about passing information on, and it is that part of the process which I professionally think is the most important. When families are moved into temporary accommodation, it is done at hours' notice. running alongside that, they may be receiving ongoing care, for example, antenatal care. And as a professional, as a midwife, I might not know where that woman is going to be the next day when I need to see her. That's sort of the prime aim of my reasoning for introducing this. So I quite agree that the phrasing of point 2, I'd be really happy to change that.
Okay, next, Councillor Melrose.
Just to add on to Councillor Dixon's points, I think when it comes to situations of hours notice, we've had cases just during my tenure where we're trying to find out if someone needs a medical need to identify that area. So and also, just to add this, in the motion it says the council requests a report to Cabinet from officers that considers the potential for. So this report will come to Cabinet with the potential. So again, very similar to the last motion we just had, it will probably lay that all out. So I would agree with Councillor Dixon. I'd agree on the second point. I can absolutely see that, but I would not delete 3, 4 and 5 at this present time.
Thank you. Any speakers on the amendment by Councillor Matesky?
Chairman, without wishing to sound like a lawyer, we run the risk of being ultra-virus, of going beyond the powers of this council. That is, whilst I can see the support generally for local government reorganisation, this is a classic example where obviously district and county need to work very closely together. The amendment as proposed actually avoids us breaching that ultra-virus, going beyond our powers, as Councillor Matesky explains, and it does fulfil what the portfolio holder has made. It's interesting to have the portfolio holder seconding a motion on her own portfolio, but anyway, it enables our officers to bring forward a report which no doubt will pick up the sort of detail that is being presented here in points 3, 4 and 5. But does not. The amendment protects the council against acting beyond our powers. And because this is such an important matter, which is clearly being brought from councillors who fully understand the importance of this matter as well, we're keen in our group to make sure that it doesn't breach a legal barrier. Officers the opportunity to come forward with a report with that detail in it. And that's why I'm supporting the amendment to this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Board.
Thank you. I'd like to amend the amendment.
Sorry, you can't do that, Councillor Board. Just a second.
I'd like to amend the amendment, which is basically split it into.
Councillor Board, I think we need to the monitoring officer.
What's the problem? Graham wants to say something. Oh, Graham wants to say something.
Sorry, through you, Chair, you can only debate one amendment at a time. Therefore, what you're about to do, I imagine, is ask Councillor Matesky and Councillor Day if they want to consider amendment to what you're proposing as a friendly amendment to the amendment, because otherwise we've got to wait for that to be determined before we come back to it.
So in that case, I will ask the proposer and seconder of the amendment to admit to accept an amendment to split their amendment in 2, which is in line with what the council wants. This won't create any issues for us because this report is going to Cabinet for a report to be given. And it won't be enacted until the Cabinet's had that report and it's been approved or otherwise by the council. So keeping those things in there, make sure we don't miss them and we can investigate while the report's being done as to what the precise wording ought to be. If it's not acceptable, then I would advise people to vote against the amendment so we can put another amendment forward.
Thank you, Councillor Board.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
We welcome that friendly amendment to the amendment. And it does enable us to properly address this really important matter. And we thank the proposers and seconder from the original motion for bringing it to council.
Councillor Whiteman?
I don't really want to be the one who introduces an amendment to the amendment to the amendment, but given the very sensible proposal on the last motion that perhaps it should go to housing scrutiny, I'm just wondering on this one whether it would be sensible just so that we check, you know, because it does look like it needs scrutiny either by ONS or housing scrutiny. I'm not quite sure what the appropriate, but I think it does need a little bit of scrutiny, this, before it goes to Cabinet, that we just check the balance is right, and that we haven't gone ultra-virus, you know, that we are covering what needs to be covered. I think it just is something that would probably be useful to have that extra layer of scrutiny included so that we don't go awry on it.
Thank you. Councillor Melrose? No. No.
If they want to accept that amendment.
Councillor Metesky or Councillor Dake, would you like to accept this amendment? Thank you. Any other speakers? No?
Just
That's cruel,
Okay.
That's cruel.
it was, yeah.
Councillor Metesky, can you stand out what your motion standouts now? Or you can email it to monitoring officer.
So, do you just want my point 2 amendment? So, what that was to strengthening liaison with local education and health partners to ensure effective communication and coordination when families are placed in temporary accommodation.
Thank you, Councillor Metesky. Can I take a vote who are in support of this motion?
The amendment.
With the amendment, yeah. Those against? Abstain? Councillor Parton. Thank you.
That is now the motion.
Now can I ask any speakers on that motion now? Or amendments? Councillor Bode.
Can I ask if we cover that it goes to the Housing Committee first?
Through you, Chair, I think it was a really good question about whether it's Housing Scrutiny Committee or Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I think it might sit between one, but if Council is happy, we will liaise with the two chairs over that.
Yeah. Sorry, Chair. Yeah, happy to liaise on that. I think just, again, sort of in terms of process, we obviously have the situation where actually housing scrutiny doesn't always meet in the same cycle as Cabinet, and this will eventually be a Cabinet paper. So personally, I would welcome some focus from housing scrutiny on it, I think, before it comes to Cabinet. But then if I remind members of what I said last time I spoke, there are 44 members in this room who could call the item into scrutiny, should they so wish. And I look forward to getting some call-ins from people other than the Liberal Democrat group, of whom I'm, of course, very fond.
Councillor Metesky and Councillor Dave, would you like to support this amendment? Just going to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's fine.
So
Carry on
I'll-
substantive.
Can I take a vote? Yeah. Can I take a vote who support in this motion with amendments? No?
Sorry, could we have some clarity as to what we're voting on now, because I'm not at all sure that all of us know.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say you're voting now on the substantive motion, which is the revised two wordings from Councillor Metesky and Councillor Day, plus the fact that before the report goes to Cabinet, it will go to one of the two scrutiny committees working out the sequence which is best at the time, most likely coming to housing scrutiny first.
Can I take a vote on that? Sorry, you want to say?
Yeah, I do want to say something. I'm going to slightly cause some disharmony in a moment. But first of all, I agree with you, Councillor Milton. We need to look at whether it comes to housing and or overview and scrutiny. I'm very happy for that to be taken between you, me, and probably Mr. Knight and Mr. Melgard, I imagine. And whoever else, whichever officers want to be involved, as well as Councillor Melrose and Davison. So between us, we'll get there. I'm going to make a political point, not a small, which applies to all of us, because all of us have spent our life fighting reform this last 2.5 years. And we have in this motion 2 words that are God's gift to reform. And it's called pregnant people. It's the Martine Croxall rolled eyeball. If you just and pregnant women, that would just avoid the debate of reform turning that this council has actually gone woke or whatever it wants to call itself. That's my request. I don't know who the substantive motion now belongs to, whether it belongs to Councillor Teskey, Day, Dixon or Melrose, but I'm sure officers will advise that. I hope they could just make that small change.
Councillor Jones, speak.
Thank you, Chair. Pregnant people can include girls who have been raped. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barton.
I would like to thank Mr. Phillips Councillor Phillips for that comment. That is the reason why I abstained. I didn't like that line either.
Thank you. Councillor Metesky, Councillor Day, would you like to accept that change?
It's an interesting debate going on in our group at the moment. Would Councillor Jones find it more comfortable if it was simply pregnant females? I'm just trying to find a middle ground here, Chair.
Councillor Kate Dixon.
I'm sorry, I couldn't agree with an amendment that changed the wording of that. That is, I am looking after pregnant people. The people identify as different genders, so I'm afraid I can't.
I would second that with Councillor Dixon. We need to make sure this is an inclusive motion that captures anyone who potentially can be pregnant.
Councillor Brown.
There we go. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I would object to that proposal also. I think it's very important to be inclusive. I think if people think it's woke, I don't know, perhaps they should look at what the word woke means. I'm happily woke and will stay woke. It's not just cisgender women who can become pregnant. There are transgender men who have the ability to become pregnant. So I think it's vital that we take an inclusive approach and include pregnant people.
Through you, Chair, that at the moment you have a proposal from Councillor Phillips, but nobody has seconded that proposal. Therefore, you're looking for a seconder, Chairman.
Yeah, if I may, could I maybe suggest to get harmony, similar to Councillor Day, that maybe just change the wording to say, so at the moment it says children and pregnant people. Could we not change that to just including children and those who are pregnant?
Is it acceptable, Councillor Dixon? Yeah. Councillor Melrose? Okay.
Proposal.
Councillor Metesky and Councillor Day, are you happy with that?
Yeah, right. Okay.
your proposal.
Yeah.
Any other speakers on this?
You are, through you, Chair, you are speaking on the substantive motion, because these have been friendly amendments, which have just happened in the last 5 minutes, which is basically the motion as set out by Councillor Matetsky with that amendment, plus plus the bit in terms of referring it to either Housing Scrutiny or Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which will be debated by the 2 chairs of that committee, plus the minor change there that it doesn't say pregnant people, but to say and those who are pregnant.
This,
Councillor Gifford.
yes, this motion was accepted, the amendment was accepted as a friendly amendment by the proposer and seconder of the motion. So it is still, the motion is still the motion as the proposer and the seconder are Councillor Dixon and Councillor Melrose. It is their motion, which has had a friendly amendment. That is as I understand it.
Through you, Chair, no, that's not how I saw that, because Councillor Matetsky proposed an amendment and Councillor Dake seconded it. Councillor Bode then proposed an amendment correction to that, which was then accepted by the proposer and seconder of the amendment.
Councillor Bode was not allowed to make an amendment. He was told he could make a suggestion that but it was accepted as a friendly amendment, as I understood it, by Councillor Dixon and Councillor Melrose, and therefore it remains their motion, as I understand it.
Through you, Chair, no, it couldn't be, because the proposer and seconder at that time were the amendment, which was Councillor Matetsky and Councillor Day.
So you're saying that it isn't a friendly, if somebody accepts a friendly, if the proposer and seconder of the motion accept a friendly amendment, it ceases to be their motion?
Councillor Davidson.
I'm sort of okay to accept most of the amendments, although I will admit I'm very confused. I think the way that this has happened has actually been very exclusive to a lot of people. Myself, with hearing, disability, I'm struggling to follow what's going on. I wish a lot of these amendments would have been brought forward sooner, so that we could actually have these dealt with beforehand, rather than right now when everyone's a bit confused. And I also do not support the idea of a change in the wording from pregnant people. I completely support what Councillor Brown has said, and I think to change that, I don't know, it's setting a weird precedent that we don't support people that are transgender.
Councillor Bode.
Yeah, can we go back to the Council's rules for amendments and motions? Motions should be submitted in writing, and the amendments should also be circulated in writing. So can we revert to that and adjourn until it's done? Thank you.
Thank you.
I may seek clarification from Councillor Bode where he's reading that, because amendments to the motion as set out 6A do not appear to directly say they have to be submitted in writing before the meeting or circulated. I'm happy to share the email round to other councillors if they would like. But
If the Constitution not kept up with what we've been doing for the last couple of years, I'm a bit surprised, because we have in the past had to adjourn and wait for them to be typed out. I think from the confusion that's been suggested, that's what we need.
Chairman, just, I think Councillor Bode raises a helpful point, as does Councillor Davison, that it might be helpful if we do take an adjournment, and I'm prepared to move such a motion, to enable us to write out very clearly what the amended motion would be, so that all members are absolutely clear about what they would be voting for. And I'm sure that could be done in quite quick order, and that would enable the meeting to move on.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Councillor Gifford?
I was going to say, I may appear to have been petty about this thing of, and if the amendment is accepted as a friendly amendment, that the motion remains with the original proposer and the original seconder. They're the people who came up with the idea. They're the people who put forward the issue. It isn't reasonable for it to appear 3 years down the line when somebody looks at the motion and feels that, oh, Councillor Mateki came up with a really good idea here, when he didn't.
Again, for clarity, we, Councillor Mateki and I, nodding to each other, completely relaxed with the original council motion standing, but being amended as a friendly amendment and coming forward in ownership. It's never done for ownership. It was an attempt to try and make sure we got this done properly. That was all. If that's agreeable to you, Chairman, then we're very happy for the original councillors nominated and seconded to continue forward with the substantive motion when re-presented and amended.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair, I have just emailed the 4 councillors in question, and I will say 4 councillors, original proposer and seconder, Councillor Day and Councillor Matetsky, if they would like to read that, but also I think the suggestion was to have an adjournment to allow that conversation to take place. So if you'd like to adjourn the meeting for, say, till 7 o'clock.
So I would like to adjourn the meeting till 7 o'clock, please, another 8 minutes. Thank you. Councillor Melrose and Councillor Day. Are you all happy with this wording which monitoring officer just sent? Councillor Day?
At risk of being a pedant, on the second paragraph at the end, we haven't addressed the wording that was agreed in our debate, Chairman, where we talked about people who are pregnant. It's just that amendment hasn't been made in this redraft. And at least the one that I've got from 1901. At the October full council meeting, we heard that paragraph at the end. Could we please just make that adjustment? Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Gifford?
Yes, a small adjustment. Point 2, you've got to strengthening. If you just got rid of the 2 and just put item 2, strengthening liaison.
Thank you.
Right.
Is everything clear to everybody here now?
Thank you, Chair. It does sadden me how the debate has gone. Obviously, we came with the intention for people in term accommodation who are vulnerable people, you know, children. And I will say pregnant people because that is the correct terminology. However, and I am worried about the outcome of this debate is going to have outside when it's obviously sent out to the media. And obviously people are watching this online. And I do think we should consider the language we choose. I will present this motion as laid out because I think the content of the motion is still inclusive, but I appreciate that people now will abstain from a motion that they would have chosen otherwise to propose and accept and vote for because of the wording that has been amended, but I will leave it there.
Councillor Kate Dixon?
Yes, like Councillor Melrose reluctantly will agree with the change in wording and again our motivation for bringing this motion was to look after the most vulnerable residents that we have with their extreme complex needs and just as to say that we do need to be very wary of language that we're using at all times.
Shall we go for a vote now? Can I ask who in favour? Against? Abstain? Thank you very much. No. It's carried. Thank you. So now we move to the next one, leaders and portfolio holder statements. And I'll go one by one on this one. So the first one is Arts, Culture and Economy, Councillor Billiard.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Since my last portfolio holder update to Council on the 22nd of October, I can report the following. Shakespeare's England. Cabinet last week reviewed a report on the work done by Shakespeare's England and have agreed to support the principle of continuing to fund Shakespeare's England at the present level during 2026-2027. Prior to the reports being finalised, I met with Shakespeare's England to discuss their digital marketing and social media strategy, reflecting on the questions which were asked by Overview and Scrutiny Committee in July. That meeting was helpful in enabling me to have the assurance of the good work that Shakespeare's England is doing in this and other areas to support our visitor economy. Christmas light switch on events. All 4 of our towns have benefited from Christmas light switch on events this year. I was particularly pleased that we were able to support an event in Whitnash with both help from our events team and financial support from the District Council. The arts. The arts team's most recent event within the pump rooms, Spark Scratch, was an evening a few weeks ago which showcased the range of creativity within our district, also enabling the creative community to network. I would just like to thank our arts officer, Connor Ellerman, for producing and hosting this event, which was a great success. The Royal Spa Centre. Pantomime. Our annual pantomime, Peter Pan, is opening this Friday at the Royal Spa Centre. Last year was a record year for the pantomime in terms of both the number of tickets sold and income generated. This year is currently tracking to beat that record, which is excellent news, and I will keep members informed. This year we are pleased to be working with the Warwickshire-wide Friendship Project as our partner charity. The arts team have also introduced Royal Spa Centre gift vouchers, perfect timing for the season. The pump rooms. Work on the roof is continuing. I would like to extend particular thanks to our arts team who have worked tirelessly to maintain services as much as they can, and especially to Rose Sawyer and her sales and information team who have kept the reception desk open in an unheated foyer space, including during the extremely cold weather we have been experiencing. I can report that we have recently successfully drawn down just short of £1 million from the Arts Council's MEND Fund to help pay for this work. Please visit our retail space if you haven't already. The economy. Our high streets are visibly showing an increased footfall with a vast reduction in vacant units, as we welcome a host of new businesses to our towns, and not just for the Christmas period. These are increasing their vibrancy. And finally, and hot off the press at 6 o'clock today, I'm thrilled to announce that leases are signed and sealed at the Stoneleigh Arms. We would like to welcome Lighthouse Arts as a brand new homegrown business supporting artists and makers, and wish them every success. Thank you to our superb team of officers, as there has been a substantial amount of work over a long period of time. And I would also like to thank Councillor Chilvers and Councillor Day for their support, particularly with the more technical aspects, because I'm not particularly a technical person. As you can tell, I'm really delighted. It's been a very long journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Villiers. The next one is decarbonisation. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to update members on the progress we are making against both our corporate decarbonisation programme and our warm homes initiatives. At Castle Farm, contractors begin next week to complete cabling and plant room works, and the solar array remains on track to be operational by the 31st of January. At St Nicholas Park Leisure Centre, Phase 2 will start in the new year, delivering over 100 additional panels, 2 renewed roofs, and improved access and safety equipment. The work will take approximately 13 weeks. And at the Royal Spa Centre, designs for a 30 kilowatt solar array are nearly complete, with the installation scheduled early in the new year. For warm homes, the Warm Homes Wave 3 work, which focuses on improving the energy performance of our own council houses, is progressing well. To date, we have 33 final designs ready for those homes. And I think very importantly, 2 tenant liaison officers are now in post to support tenants throughout the works. The on-site installation programme begins on the 12th of January and runs through to mid-March. And on our Warm Homes local programme, we continue to make steady progress. Over 100 households have been contacted, and the Government UK Checker is now generating a healthy flow of new inquiries, and retrofit assessments have begun with our partnership with Acton Energy, which remains very positive. And our Go Renewable offer is also gaining traction, helping residents explore heat pump options, including the newly supported air-to-air systems. And finally, the low-cost loan scheme has been agreed at Cabinet to progress to procurement, and that will offer residents a further route to improving the efficiency of their own homes. Chair, these programmes reflect real practical progress, reducing our carbon footprint and supporting residents across the district, and I look forward to providing further updates in the new year.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Housing, Councillor Melrose.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep mine short and sweet, because as we reach the end of the year, I think it's important we reflect on the 3 key areas. So that's school sites being built, becoming a compliant landlord, and getting the housing service ready for unitary. So for the school sites, we now have a dedicated form that's been created uploaded onto the website, so if any residents have specific questions regarding the school sites, they can use that form that has been shared with ward councillors and the Kenilworth Town Council. We're regularly updating the frequently asked questions, which, to let members know, currently there's a lot of planning questions coming through. So we're updating them regularly, and as I've said again to councillors, if there are persistent or repeatable questions coming through, please let me know so we can help add to that bank of frequently asked questions. The business case, which is due in February, is still on track. And as I agreed at last full council with Councillor Hales, we're working on the dates for the public meetings in early 2026. With the compliant landlord side, I do want to thank and put on record my thanks to all of the Housing Scrutiny Committee for their hard work over the past year. I'd hope the committee would agree that they're starting to see real progress when it comes to housing scrutiny. So I won't repeat all the achievements, but some of the things we've reduced in the number of high-risk fire safety actions, launching the new home choice application form in April with 1,274 forms completed. We're improving our stock condition. We're now looking at how we communicate with residents, and we are setting up a communication engagement strategy that went to housing scrutiny yesterday for them, and it's going to carry on next year. When it comes to housing services ready for unitary, so last week we did make the decision to dispose of 1 Warwick Street and William Walsgrove. As agreed at overview and scrutiny, there will be a paper at Warren Street next year about learning how we got here. I know Councillor Milton can't wait for that paper. It's his early Christmas present. And then obviously it's about next year's refreshing the housing and homelessness strategy. So first steps is engaging partners. So we are having a homelessness and rough sleeping forum next week, which myself and Councillor Kate Dixon, who is the opposition spokesperson for housing, are going to attend. And finally, because I've been requested, there is an open invitation to you all. So next Tuesday, the housing development team have arranged to view some passive houses. There are only 5 spaces available, so at the end of this council, if you are interested, let me know, and it will be a first come, first served basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Melrose. Next one is Neighbourhood Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to start by sharing some good news from Sherborne Recycling, which we are part owner and our recycling goes to. They were recent finalists in the MRW National Recycling Awards and have won the Recycling Facility of the Year and the Independent Operator of the Year for under 50 employees. So I'd like to send congratulations to the team at Sherborne. On parking, as I hope you will have noted, parking fees and charges will be coming to an extra Cabinet and Council on the 18th of December and a budget review group on the 17th. This year, the proposed fees and charges for 26-27 have been informed by the findings and recommendations based in the report from PML Parking Consultants. The recommendations link changes directly to parking demand levels whilst introducing elasticity into the modelling. This has meant a different and more dynamic approach with new modelling for each car park, as well as introducing a 30-minute tariff to trial in some of our car parks. This, of course, all needs to align with our MTFS forecast, which has meant we've needed more time to provide the fees and charges which balance budget and parking demands. So I would like to thank members in advance for those extra meetings, for attending, if you can. Moving on to contract services. Within our contract services team, the team of 4 area contract officers are short-staffed currently, and we only have 2 working. So please can I ask members to allow additional time for responses. Please use the contract services email and not emailing officers directly. And if it is urgent, do include the head of service or the contract service manager. And finally, it is that time of year again, and with the joy of Christmas comes the collection of bins. As with every year, the collection dates will change over the Christmas and New Year period. Residents will receive a bin hanger detailing the changes, which will be delivered by the recycling crews over the next couple of weeks. And residents who are on sack collections will receive a postcard via Royal Mail. There will also be social media posts, information on our website and on the Council's app. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. The next one is People and Organisation Development, Councillor Davidson.
Thank you, Chair. On Friday, Warwick District Council suspended its use of X following the motion that was voted through by councillors in October. So thank you to the officers for all their work on putting together the report and all the work that actually went into removing the platform, because it's more than just shutting down X, it's removing it from all our comms. So I want to encourage any councillors that still use X to remove themselves from the platform to align with WDC's values and the motion that most of you supported. I'll also take this as an opportunity to remind councillors of our commitment to EDI. In addition to this, we have recently approved our updated marketing and communication strategy for 25 to 28, with a focus on accessibility, jargon-free communications to keep residents informed on our services, projects and events. We'll be exploring new communication options, particularly to engage younger audiences and strengthening our two-way communication methods of receiving and acting on residents' feedback.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Please, Councillor King.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors will, I hope, be aware of the local plan workshop being held here tomorrow evening. As plans evolve and become better informed, as the information flow from consultees and the public engagement process is filtered and consolidated, a public engagement process that received a massive number of responses, the workshop will allow all councillors the chance to consider the various options for housing and employment development across the whole district. As the process has unfolded, councillors with development possibilities within their wards have, it is hoped, been given the opportunity to ask questions and seek explanations. However, this has progressed without councillors being able to have a sense of why here, or opposed to why not there. So tomorrow evening is an opportunity to understand the context for proposals and see how they are placed within the district, and so perhaps go some way to having these questions answered. Officers will be on hand to answer questions. There has been some slippage on a local plan schedule, and a revised timetable is currently being considered and should be able to be viewed by Christmas. It's fair to say that there are very many local authorities in England also under significant pressure to get their plans submitted on time. This means, therefore, that many of the national consultants who work on landscape and sustainability appraisals, for example, highways and traffic modelling, are greatly stretched, doing the same for other authorities, not just ourselves. I'll finish just adding that we as Warwick District councillors are all equally responsible in this plan to succeed. The consequences of not having a plan are dire, giving developers the freedom to leave our district as therefore we can see for decades. It would be possible to bring a plan forward that would please everyone. I think we all understand that. But sharing the responsibility in our offices and systems, we must good the whole district first.
Thank you, Councillor King. Resources, Councillor Chilvers. Sorry, there is some problem with the noise.
Right, can we hear me without...
Yes.
We can. So I'm sure you've been waiting with bated breath, as we are waiting with bated breath for the local government finance settlement, which is due on the week beginning the 15th of December. Indications are that at the moment that we are expecting a reduction in our core spending power as a result of the business rates reset, which is likely to have an ongoing impact on us as a council, but we will find out the details during that week. I do want to thank officers for putting together the budget report that came through, which does now give us space to allocate any funding that we do get from the local government settlement in January. And that's all I'm going to say, so I hope it was worth the wait.
Thank you, Councillor Chilvers. The next one is Safer, Healthy and Active Communities, Councillor Sinnott.
Thank you, Chair. A little insight into my world. I'll start off with an old staple, flies and odour in Whitnash. From the spiking reporting in early September, a month's worth of reporting in just 4 days, we still have an issue with a general odour in the area. I've been in contact with Rapid, the residents group. I'm hoping that we can work together to find solutions or just to better understand the nature of the issue. Moving on, our project with Citizens Advice grows from strength to strength, with regular sessions from 7 bases across the district and more being developed. Growing stronger links with local organisations and community groups is also moving forward. From first tentative steps a year ago to now, having a real impact in our communities for those who may otherwise face barriers to accessing advice. They can now receive timely, practical support close to home. Our community connector at the Lillington Hub is growing tentacles, reaching out into the community in a targeted way, engaging with many groups and really getting into the community and what respiratory disease looks like to the individual. Getting close up and personal with residents and giving support with our officers' background in housing, the wider determinants of health are being addressed. And finally, we may like a good strategy, but it is heartwarming to see the vibrancy and positive effects on our residents that we can influence on a daily basis. Having said that, we still have plenty to do. We can't rest easy. There is so much more to be done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Sinnott. The next one, the last one is Strategic Leadership, Councillor Davidson.
Thank you, Chair. It's been an extremely busy time, first regarding local government reorganisation. Huge thanks to our Chief Executive, other officers and our district and borough colleagues for submitting the proposal for 2 unitaries in Warwickshire on time. We're now expecting government to consult on the 2 options in the spring and announce their decision in the summer, but of course that may change. Last week's Cabinet meeting was packed, so again, huge thanks to officers who supported all this work. It's been said before, but this included key priorities for the administration, such as the next steps in the low-cost loan scheme for private domestic retrofit, which Councillor Williams mentioned. And Councillor Melrose alluded to 2 other reports about our strategic approach to assets, which was the plan is to market 1 Warwick Street and William Walsgrove House for sale next year. To me, this demonstrates a housing development strategy and programme forum, chaired by Councillor Melrose, is prepared to make the right decisions to ensure our efforts and resources are focused on key priorities. But of course, the huge action for them is on the Kenilworth sites, as that's their most important task. As Councillor Williams explained, as Councillor Roberts explained, the car parking fees and charges, as well as the sports grant review, were agreed very late. Councillor Milton quite rightly objected to them being rushed through, as that would have stopped effective scrutiny. So I'm grateful that he agreed to them coming forwards to an extra Cabinet meeting on the 18th of December. I don't think it will take much more time of people or more journeys here but it is confusing because at the ONS that was scheduled for the 17th of December, they may also wish to consider the sports report, and then that is followed by a budget review group that can scrutinise the car parking report. I hope that thoughtful use of substitutions will mean the attendees at both are the same people. Similarly, I'm asking group leaders if the extra council meeting on the 18th will just be for 14 councillors, so that most of those who attend will actually be at meetings here just before that. Of course, all councillors can turn up for the extra if you wish to do so. In summary, I expect there'll be very few councillors, except Cabinet, who will have to come an extra time here. Given work pressures, Councillor Collins has stepped down from the Local Plan Advisory Group. Therefore, I'm very pleased that Councillor Day has agreed to return to the group. And finally, with 2025 coming to a close, I'd like to express my thanks to all councillors and officers for their hard work over the last 12 months and wish everyone a wonderful Christmas break.
Councillor Collier.
Please, will we be getting those statements circulated to us after the meeting? I believe last time, after the October 22nd meeting, Councillor Billiard managed to circulate it, but Councillor Williams, Councillor Melrose, Councillor Davidson, Councillor Chilvers, Councillor Sinnott and Councillor Davison did not. So will we manage to have a better strike rate this time?
Councillor Davison.
We've never agreed to circulate them, and the reason for that is we change. So although I've written things down, what I said and what I wrote is not the same, and there are others who don't. I think people like this as a relatively off the cuff. I know we do check things in advance. As I've said before, if we go for everything written in advance, why do we need to turn up? You can put all your questions in advance and we can answer them by email as well.
I thought you had at least agreed you wouldn't circulate them in advance, but you would circulate them afterwards. Is that not the case anymore?
We had agreed whether before or afterwards, long and technical ones we would circulate.
Thank you. We move to the next item. Question to the leader and portfolio holders. We now move to the question to the leader and portfolio holders. As set out in procedure rule, up to 1 hour 20 minutes is permitted to ask questions under this item. I do have discretion to extend this time, and I will be mindful of my request not to ask question under the previous item. Before I ask for questions, I would like to remind councillors and of the council procedure rule regarding question to the leader and portfolio holders, which dictates that question must relate to the exercise of any of the functions of the council. The chair of the council, after consultation with the chief executive and acting reasonably, has the power to exclude any question or supplementary which they consider has already been answered, either in the meeting or previously, is not relevant to the council business, or is unsuitable. Any speakers for this, please?
Councillor Fowler, Councillor Barton, Councillor Dixon, Councillor Milton, Councillor Payne.
Slow progress.
I can't try.
Right, Councillor Kohler, Councillor Fowler, Councillor Barton, Councillor Dixon, Councillor Payne,
Councillor Milton,
Milton,
Councillor Barton, Councillor Phillips.
Phillips. Okay, do you want to start off with those?
Councillor Kohler, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've got two questions for Councillor Melrose. The first is, could you give us a breakdown of the state of garages off Burns Road in Lillington? Specifically, how many are let, how many are being prepared to let, how many are waiting repairs, and how many are effectively beyond repair?
Thank you, and thank you for your question in advance yesterday. So, Burns Road has 30 garages, 15 are void, of that are 9 on the wait list. So that is my understanding from, in terms of that one. In terms of, sorry, I'm getting my numbers all mixed up already. It's 30 garages, 15 are void, 15 are let, so there's 15. There are 9 on the wait list, and your final bit of your question, of them, the rest there should be two that are in current repair that will then become back into circulation.
So just to clarify,
Yeah.
2 of the 15 that are currently void can come back. So
Yes.
are we assuming that the other 13 are beyond repair?
They need to be reviewed properly. So garages is a big issue for many wards. I appreciate everyone's got them. At the moment, there is a project that officers are doing to review all the garages and get that sense. But at the moment, as you appreciate with the housing regulatory, it's been sort of deprioritised. But once I get that full list, you're more than happy to have it, Councillor Kohler.
Thank you. Yes. So my second question was following on from a question that I asked at October Council, where I asked about a resident who was struggling to get compensation for water damage to his flooring that was caused by one of our contractors back in May. Yesterday evening, I sent advance notice about asking a follow-up, which seemed to have provoke a flurry of activity, which hopefully means that payment is now on the way to the resident. So thank you for finally getting that over the line, though I guess we won't get confirmation for a day or two that the payment has actually been received. So just to be clear, at all times the resident has done what we've asked of him, what the council has asked of him. At no time has anyone ever suggested that we shouldn't pay him compensation. And I'm certain that officers have been doing their best to follow our policies and processes. So there seems to be some kind of systemic breakdown that has just meant that he has been met with repeated failure to get his situation addressed in a timely way. So I ask you 2 things. Would you write to the resident to apologise on behalf of this council for the length of time it has taken to address his issue? And would you use this case as a reason or an excuse to review our policies and processes to ensure that we never give such poor service to a resident again? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kohler, for that question. And yes, when you sent me that email to say it hadn't been resolved, I won't repeat what I said, but I think if you look at me on housing scrutiny, you'd have seen my face of reaction, because following that question at last council, me, Councillor Bowden, Councillor Kohler met with officers and we agreed the resolution, and to my understanding it was resolved until I got the email from Councillor Kohler. Yes, there's been a flurry of activity, and I'm monitoring to make sure that the compensation finally delivered, and I agreed to both of them. This individual has been systemically let down again and again. I will personally write to this individual and I will use this case as a review.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Paul.
Thank you. It's to Councillor Sinnott. Put my glasses up to see what I wrote. Do you think cutting funding of sports grants, that's coming to Cabinet in December, has been presented at a sensible time, as we're actually consulting on community strategy, and that asks for volunteers, for groups, and will you do more? Do you think the timing is sensible, that these are both being consulted on at the same time?
Thank you for that question. Timing's a wonderful thing. Now, the community strategy seems to be rolling on for forever, a lot longer than I would have hoped for. We started in earnest about a year ago, and it is still going on. It's had bumps in the road. So I just want to see that over the line, and I'm going to push to get that over the line. When it comes to the sports grants, I'm happily going to tie links between the two so that they are mutually supportive. Both sets of officers and teams are quite happy with that approach and will deliver that. So I want to get the sports grant. That's been delayed, as has been mentioned, but it will be here later this month. I'm quietly confident that they will match each other and they will work together. Unless you have any other concerns about that, I'm open to listen to that.
Just come back with a supplementary. Do we know why both reports have been so delayed?
We're certainly looking into that. It was signed off, and a couple of weeks later it hadn't come through, and I'm quite happy with that. If it doesn't get through on time for decent scrutiny, I'm quite happy for it to be pulled and put at a later date. It's unfortunate. The teams aren't best pleased with that, but the busyness of this council at the moment, it's just slipped by the wayside. I can't give you a better answer than that. But thank you for the question.
Thank you. Councillor Barton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. May I first of all say thank you for Councillor Chilvers for making extra funds available for the Christmas lights this year. It was an excellent show. Can I also ask Councillor Billiard to relay Whitnash's thanks to Louise, Charlotte and the team. My sort of question is about the Panto. I've spent many a year coming to the Panto on the pre-show showing or whatever, and I don't believe an invite came out this year. I just wondered whether this was cut, because it was an enjoyable experience, whether this was cut by national government.
Thank you for that question, and not in advance. So we are looking at budgets and costs. So this year we felt that possibly staff and members could buy and purchase full price tickets rather than there being a reduced offer. We thought that was fair. So yeah, that's my response. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, cut by national government. Thank you.
Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for Councillor Roberts in connection with waste. In 2025, contractors working on behalf of Warwick District Council have collected 61,900 kilograms of litter on the A46, spread across 2 collection periods in March and October. That amount of litter is damaging to the environment, it's bad for wildlife, it costs taxpayers for that to be collected. It sends a very bad message to visitors to Warwick District that there is so much litter on there. I wonder if you could share what action you have taken to ensure that in 2026 the amount of litter that is collected is lower.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon, for the question. Yeah, it's disgraceful, isn't it? It's absolutely disgraceful that people are driving along the road, chucking things out of the window. You know, a lot of them I know are bottles of wee, you know, which have to be collected. We've been talking to, the team has been looking at put some signage up, but we need County Council to be to come along with that journey because it is their highway. So, yeah, I mean, well, it's highways, but we are talking to the County Council as well. There is a point of, you know, we are the collection authority, so we don't go and pick litter up, but is it our responsibility for everything that's thrown out of the window? You know, I think we need to make sure that there is more messaging out there, and it's just a shame that we're in this position where people feel it's okay just to litter the highways. But we need to make sure that people are educated and take responsibility themselves, because it's a dangerous job for those crews to go out there and collect it twice a year.
If I may come back, Chair, on that. Yes, as well as those crews, it is dangerous. I did take part earlier in the year in a collection. I didn't actually find any bags of sugar. There was a lot of bottles of green water, as it was described. That's the amount collected is equivalent to 61,900 bags of sugar on the side of the road, a truly staggering amount. Can I suggest that as well as putting up signage on the side of the road, that conversations are had with the 2 big contractors that are working nearby and their subcontractors, because the view of those collecting the litter was that there's been a noticeable increase whilst they've been there.
Thank you very much. I will certainly take that feedback, and yes, we can have those conversations, and I'd like to have a conversation with you as well to see what we can do. If you'd like to come on board and join the journey of how we reduce waste and stop people from throwing things out of their car windows.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions. One, please, for Councillor Sinnott and one for Councillor Roberts, and I'll be succinct. The first question builds on what Councillors Dray and Milton were asking in the October meeting, I think, about dog fouling and the dog warden. And just to say that I very much respect what Councillor Dray has said more than once about preserving Warwick's reputation as a tourist town. Councillor Milton rightly said that there's one dog warden covering the whole of the district, and I think in our discussions you've said that going forward it's the community wardens team that will take up some of the slack. I know of one constituent living on the outskirts of Covington who's had repeated incidents of dog fouling outside her home, so for those individuals it affects, it causes a lot of distress. The question is in two parts, please. Given that more use is going to be made going forward of the community wardens, can you impress upon that team that it is meant to be a genuinely district-wide service that operates in the rural parts of the district as well? And the second part of the question is, if they're going to operate according to a system of hotspots, what can you do as portfolio holder to make sure that the designation of those hotspots is done justly so it doesn't disadvantage the rural areas and the service they're receiving? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, for that question. And we had that some weeks ago. It's a good point. I'll point out a few things. The only statutory duty that the District Council has is to look after stray dogs. The rest of it is non-statutory. The community wardens, they can enforce dog fouling. Looking forward, we do have a part-time dog warden. In the future, would we want to continue that or increase that? I think we are better served by community wardens who have that ability as well. So I'm thinking that's the way we will go forward if we change structures. It's got to be evidence-led with a limited service. There is a site on the WDC website where you can report dog fouling, and I'd welcome you to use that. I've asked a question and there doesn't get a lot of reporting, to be fair. So it'll be interesting to see that happen. It will be evidence-led. And if you feel that the rural areas are getting a rough deal on this, please encourage reporting and we'll see what we can do. But I think there's one big factor in this that we may need to broach: the dog owners. We can't enforce a way out of this. We need responsible dog owners, as most are. But getting the public to pay for dog wardens to enforce is probably the wrong way around. We need to prevent it, and the dog owners can do that for themselves. So I'd like to see better behaviour out there from some of our dog owners, but I was told by the head of service when she started 20 years ago, this was her bugbear. And 20 years later, it still is. So we're working on it. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for the comprehensive answer. To Councillor Roberts, please. I wanted to ask quickly about the wildlife action plans. I know you've corresponded with me about it over email, and thank you for the very detailed answer. So I'll try and be brief. I appreciate that they're driven mainly through the local nature partnership and WELC, but Warwick District Council still has a supporting role. You said there's not a target in place at the moment for the number of Tier 1 councils across the district that will eventually have a wildlife action plan in place as a formal document. Given that there isn't one, my question is, should there be?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor Payne. I think when I'm speaking to officers, they've said that we don't have any targets, but wider, the local nature partnerships don't have targets either, and they're led, at the different authorities. So, I mean, we'd like to see as many parish and towns take a lead on this and do with the in nature plans. But they've got to take an interest, and for them to take that up, we can then support them on it. So I'd be happy to, as I mentioned in the emails, happy to have a conversation with you to speak with officers and support what you want to do with the parishes in your ward. But it's very hard to set a target when we don't, you know, if parishes aren't showing interest themselves.
Thank you for that. I'm just worried that it's something that's really important, but which ends up becoming a missed opportunity. At the moment, what town and parish councils are being asked to do potentially is very, very open-ended. And of course, there's an impact on volunteer time and charity time, which isn't infinite. So I was just wondering if Warwick District Council and the administration could do more to stimulate the process. For instance, in a large rural ward, such as the one I represent, once one parish has got a nature plan in place, it should be a catalyst for the other parishes following suit and also doing one. So could Warwick District Council officers write to parishes, for example, and suggest sharing plans to try and give the process the stimulus it needs?
Absolutely. Anything we can do to nudge anybody along, you know, the parishes along to take on board and take a lead in this, absolutely. Yeah, we're happy to support that. And as I say, really like to have a chat with you about what we can do with the parishes in your ward to push those plans forward.
Thank you. Councillor Milton.
Thank you, Chair. Question for Councillor Melrose. So I spoke recently to the developer of the site at Thickthorn Gardens in Kenilworth, and I understand that due to delays in the process of negotiation on the purchase of the affordable homes on the site, there are currently 2 4-bed homes that are completed but are empty, and there are a further 6 1-beds and 3 2-bed flats that are in progress, but the developers are currently considering actually mothballing them. So given the need for affordable homes in our district and the current lengthy waiting lists, in particular for single person properties, and the discussion that we've had earlier today as well, what action are you taking to ensure that the affordable homes are being brought forward as quickly as possible?
Thank you for that question and for being in advance. So basically, when it comes to this developer, and I appreciate there's a variation that's just gone in, so I'm going to be a bit more general because of that variation going in. We have spoke to officers, so we have what we call the housing development team, but you also have the strategic housing manager whose job is to make connections with the developers and with registered providers. So we've had discussions about what is the specific issues around this site. I know they are meeting with the developer and they are meeting with the developer later this week. I do have more confidential information which I'm happy to discuss with you closed session, which I can't say at this time. But basically we are having them conversations because obviously we need 1-beds. You know, that is our most demand housing service. And I appreciate this time with a lot of registered providers. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, they'd be buying them. At the moment, registered providers are not. But we're having that continual dialogue and we are trying to set up registered provider forum so we can collate and get that intelligence overall. So I've left it quite general and I appreciate I've not answered your question probably as much as you'd like, but I do have more information we could talk after this council meeting and I'm happy to brief ward councillors following further meetings.
Thank you. Just follow up. Thank you, Councillor Melrose. I appreciate the answer. I understand there's actually been a gap of about 3 months when little conversation happened between the developer and the council. So given that the developer has now put in that variance application that you refer to that would vary the tenure of the homes, how quickly can we commit to finding a resolution?
I don't want to commit at a specific time, but I would want to make sure we get a resolution as soon as possible. So that's what I'm pushing the officers. And I'm also asking why has there been that sort of drop? I appreciate there have been some staff leave. That was an emergency leave. I don't want to go into the details of that, but I appreciate there were some key players missing during that time, and that might explain some of the rationale.
Thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Councillor Tangri. I've got 2 questions for Councillor King, and my apologies for not giving these to you in advance. They only came up this afternoon, and then I got held up in traffic, so I didn't get a chance to brief you earlier. I'm very sad to read today that the charity Warwickshire Rural Community Council, which is based at the Wellesbourne University campus, entered into administration on Monday. They're a very good resource for us in the rurals. They do enabling projects, housing needs survey, affordable housing support for the rurals, community-led planning, and self-build and custom build, among the other things they get involved in. My question to you, Councillor King, is would you as portfolio holder please review and possibly take to Cabinet during the budget round what we can do as a council to replace these lost services for both our rural areas and for more generally affordable homes, because this is a service that I think residents, although they're not, maybe not be very aware of it, they're actually going to miss it being there.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. I have to admit, not knowing of this organisation.
I wasn't sure whether to address it to Councillor King or Councillor Melrose, because it is housing, but it's also about planning.
Yes, no, we are saddened of the announcement that was made. What I've asked officers as soon as we made aware to see if there's any tenants who are in receipt of these services. So I know the landlord services are looking to identify them. I know there's also work to try and find an alternative market provider as well. That piece of work is also commencing. I'd hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, I think the one thing that certainly our parish councils really appreciate is the work of one of their officers, Sarah Brooke Taylor, who does a lot of housing needs survey, and that's run out of there, and that is going to be missed. We've been talking about it at a couple of our parish councils in the last 3-4 months as an opportunity. But I'll be very grateful if whether you or Councillor King could look at what we can do to replace those missing services. Councillor King, I'm fairly sure this is in your domain. This afternoon I was made aware of a Warwick District Council resident who is a tenant farmer, and he has been given notice so that his land can be used for biodiversity net gain. Would you comment on whether, in your view, this is ethical to terminate a tenant's farmer occupation of land in order to repurpose it for biodiversity net gain? I mean, he's also got environmental benefits on one side, but there's significant social and economic harm to the farmer. And whether he would take to officers and look at what can be done to prevent such behaviours when proposals are brought forward with BNG enhancements in the planning process.
Yeah, I think thank you. Well, maybe not, but anyway, there's a number of issues there, and they are quite serious issues. And you ask me on an ethical issue, that's not really the place to answer that now about a planning issue. So I need to take that away. If you could email me some details of that, I will happily consider it and discuss it with you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor King. That's really what I wanted as a commitment tonight, because I do think this sort of behaviour on the part of certain landlords is not the best behaviour, let's just say.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
Chairman, thank you. And if I could have your patience with me just for a brief moment, I have a question for the leader and on an important matter. Councillor Davidson, I would like to offer both you and the council my apology for breaching confidence when I twice referred in public session to a specific sum of money to be invested in the proposed council scheme. First time was at Cabinet, and I apologise straight away, but subsequently at council. I have been advised by officers that despite this figure being in the public domain, the front page of the Courier no less, at the time of our most recent debate, it was a breach of confidence on my part to mention this sum, a breach which I sincerely regret. I therefore ask you as leader if you will accept this apology on behalf of the council.
Thank you, Councillor Day, for being so open up front about that. Yes, definitely. We are still waiting our monitoring officer to bring an updated version of the Code of Conduct where some of the issues that you raise are actually quite important, and we'll need to debate them then. But thank you for the apology.
And then with your leave, if I may, Chair, a supplementary question also for Councillor Davidson. Thank you sincerely again for accepting that apology. And revisiting your comments about me at the 1st of October council meeting, do you now have confidence in me returning to the trusted role, and it is a trusted role, as a member of your leadership coordinating group?
The simple answer is yes. The longer answer is I don't have trust in any of us. Absolutely not saying anything wrong. So I have a huge sympathy for you, because the complexity of what's public and what isn't is really difficult. And if I've messed up, I'm glad no one's noticed it yet. But absolutely, that's fine. Just on a minor point, that each time you say Councillor Davidson, somebody behind me gets extremely worried. So if you can be prepared for that. To add for the confusion, you may know we've appointed an executive for Milverton Homes called Ian Davidson. So please be quite careful on those. Thank you. But yes, definitely we look forward to seeing you at LCG.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Thank you. To the next. Cabinet reports. We are considering a recommendation from Cabinet meeting held on 27th November 2025, which was shared via an excerpt of the public minutes in respect of payment licensing, housing policy approvals and subsidy control. I appreciate the agenda for council stated that we would also consider recommendation from Cabinet in respect of item 5, General Fund Revenue Based Budget 2026-27. However, there were no recommendation from Cabinet to council on this matter. Next one is Payment License Policy 2026-2031 request for approval. Can I confirm that councillors have read the recommendation for this item? We are asked to adopt the policy and approve delegated authority to the head of service for them to introduce it at a date they choose. The precise wording of decision recommend to council in case it is requested. So we don't need to. Can I have a proposer for this wording, please? Councillor Melrose?
Sorry, I'm just trying to get the agenda back up. What am I proposing? Oh, payment license. Sorry, that's...
Payment license policy. Councillor Sinha. Second. Councillor Davison, thank you. Any speakers on this? Councillor Milton.
Thank you, Chair. It's not to object to this specifically, but I think I'd ask Cabinet and officers just to work together on some sequencing and timing on this, because one of the things that was particularly interesting here was it wasn't, as far as I'm aware, until we got this paper through on Cabinet that we saw the consultation responses, and there were a number of, I think, very pertinent issues raised in there, particularly by our Leamington bid, about the cost of payment licenses, particularly to smaller businesses, and that was something I'm uncomfortable having signed off, agreed the fees and charges at a previous meeting, or that's gone through, to take place when we've now got extra information about actually how people feel about those fees and charges. So there's a little bit of sequencing here. I think it would be beneficial if Cabinet and officers could work through in future.
Thank you, Councillor Milton. Councillor Gorman.
I welcome a formal pavement licence policy coming to Council for approval. However, I remain concerned about the potential impact of this on disabled people with the minimum unobstructed width requirements in this policy. I hope that the impact of this on disabled people will be monitored and reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Melrose, you want to say anything? Councillor Sinnott?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll take note of both of those points, and I wasn't aware that, you hadn't got the full details there. I know Councillor Gorman had responded to the consultation, There's a tricky balance to be drawn here. 2 metres width of pavements is good. It could conceivably go down to 1.5. Towns like Warwick with very narrow pavements, are we going to be flexible about this? I'm on the flexible side. And the idea of disabled people and access, actually, sometimes it's quite good to have a pavement, tables and chairs, so that it's more accessible. So I'm happy for our officers to maintain it, to keep an eye on it and feedback. That's quite within our gifts. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Gifford? No?
There seems to
Or
be
you
a
don't?
misunderstanding by Councillor Sinnott as to what the reason for making sure it's disabled access is so that somebody who's disabled can get past the tables and chairs, not just so they can go and sit on them. I'm sure they may wish to do that, but it is important that they can actually use the pavement in their buggy or whatever to get from A to B. And that's essential, because that's what they shouldn't have to go into the road. And, I mean, our monitoring officer may be experiencing this at the moment, but we do need to, it is a difficult balance, you're absolutely right, but people with disabilities have still got to be able to get around safely.
Thank you, Chair. I fully take that on board and understand the width of the pavements and the arguments there, and absolutely get that. A lot of pavements struggle to accommodate, but noted, and thank you very much for that clarification, Councillor.
Thank you. Can I take a vote on this, please? Who are in favour of item policy 6, license policy? Against? Abstain? Councillor Gordon. Councillor Fernandez. Thank you. Now we're moving to the next one, item 7, housing policy approval. The second item for us to consider from Cabinet is not the approval of policies for housing in respect of hate crime, AIDS and adaptations and the damp mold condensation, but for the request to Council to update Constitution to reflect the delegated authority to the head of housing in consultation with portfolio holder for housing to make minor changes to these policies. Can members confirm they have reviewed the recommendations? Can I have a proposer? Councillor Melrose? Chinese secondary, Councillor King? Any speakers? Councillor Phillips?
It's not directly in what we're going to approve, but I hope that Councillor Melrose, we could add into the tracker, which I welcome, whether a review, and if it has been reviewed by the Housing Scrutiny Committee, seems to be missing from the columns.
No, please he can. Any other speakers? No. Can I take Councillor Melrose?
Thank you, Chair. No, I completely agree. I will make sure that column is added, and I just want to put on record, because it's gone through Housing Scrutiny Cabinet, and I think it's gone through many iterations. So I just want to thank everyone for their input.
Thank you. Alt, can I take who are in favour? Against? Abstain? It's carried. Thank you. Item 9, subsidy control. There are a number of recommendations in this report from Cabinet, from Council, to consider in respect of subsidy control and ensuring the Council can meet its legal obligation for this in an appropriate and timely manner. Please, can members confirm they have reviewed the recommendation? Yeah. Can I have a proposal? Councillor Chilvers, second, Councillor King. Any speakers? No? Can I take a vote on this then? who are in favor of the wording recommendations? Those against? Abstain? Thank you. Item 10, public and press to consider resolving that under Section 100A of Local Government Act 1972, that the public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following item by the reason of the likely disclosure of exempt information within paragraph 1, 2, and 3 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, following the Local Government Order 2006. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Davison, seconder, Councillor Melrose. Can I have those in favor, please? Against? Abstain? Thank you. The last item of business on the agenda is the fixing the common seal as set out in agenda. I will propose from the chair, and I can see Councillor Davison indicating and ask for this, and any seconding? Those in favour, please. Against? Abstain? I close this meeting. Thank you very much. Good evening again. Welcome to the extraordinary meeting of Warwick District Council on 3rd of December 2025 at Town Hall, Royal Leamington Spa. My name is Naveen Tangri, Chairman of Warwick District Council. The sole purpose of this meeting is to consider the second homes council tax premium report of the monitoring officer of 27th of November 2025 issued to this council under Section 5 of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989. I'm not going to repeat the procedure for the emergency alarms and stuff, but I think I have already said that. As a part of council commitment to reducing the use of paper, council and officers may use electronic devices during the meeting. I have apologies for Councillor Firth and any further apologies. I know some councillors have left, but they have informed me that they are leaving it. But any other apologies from anybody? No? Okay, thank you. Item 2, declaration of members. Are there any declarations? No? Next item, as explained earlier, we are to consider the matter of the second homes council tax premium following the report of monitoring officer dated 27th November 2025 under Section 5 of Local Government and Housing Act 1989. The report comes to us because the monitoring officer is of the view that the council has acted outside the law in respect of applying second home council tax premium of 100%, and immediate actions need to be taken by council to remedy this situation. There are a number of recommendations for council to consider, which I will take in separate votes. Some recommendations will be proposed from the chair, others where I will look for a proposer and seconder. I trust that members have read the report and confidential appendix, and when reaching decision in respect of the report will be cognizant of the confidential appendix. Therefore, I'll propose from the chair that the council notes the information contained within the report in respect of its legal position, second home council tax premium that the council has charged since 1st of April 2025. The council notes that the precipitating authorities in Warwick District have been made aware of this position. Councillor Redford, I believe you wish to second this. Do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. I reserve my right to speak. Shall I say it again? Reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Any speakers? Councillor Barton?
Go on then. Just find ourselves in an interesting position, and I don't wish to go back about blame and all that, but I presume we've gone wrong somewhere, and have we learnt the lessons?
Through you, Chair, I think the answer is yes, there are lessons to be learnt there. There were mistakes which have been made. Some of those lessons learnt are set out within the report in terms of how we're changing recording of decisions. The other bit, and I'm grateful to those members who attended the briefing sessions last week, so I appreciate there were short notice to those you managed to get to them. That's much appreciated. There was also comments there about we have undertaken report writing training for all senior officers in the council. That was planned anyway, but it relates to this. And also changing our procedures for report checking as well before they come through. Again, it's another pair of eyes to help check and make sure everything's correct. So yeah, there are lessons, and yeah.
Thank you. Any other speakers? No? Councillor Chilvers, you want to say anything?
I'll speak on the recommendations to come.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. No, nothing from me.
Can I take vote on this recommendation, please? Those in favour? Against? Abstain? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. In respect of recommendation 3 in the report, the monitoring officer will provide the options to us. We can either accept or reject his advice. Having considered the report, I will propose from the chair that the council accept the advice from the monitoring officer and propose remedial action. Councillor Redford, I believe you want to second this. Do you want to wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I do wish to speak. I feel it is important for us as Chairman and Vice Chairman to lead this debate. The clear advice is that as a council, we have made an error and we should seek to correct this at the earliest opportunity. Therefore, I am happy to second your proposal.
Thank you. Any speakers? Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. I understand the prudence of this recommendation. However, the very principle of refunding a small group of second homeowners a substantial sum due to a legal technicality, when ours and the other impacted bodies struggle for funding for crucial responsibilities to our residents, is unacceptable to me. Unless we're unambiguously in breach of legal duties, which the legal advice didn't say, as I understand it, I cannot vote for this recommendation or for recommendation 5 as it relates to that.
Any other speakers? Councillor Davison?
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong, for that. I certainly understand your frustration, and I'm particularly frustrated that the government brought in guidance sort of midway through, and we were expected to know that, which came out last autumn, so it's only part of the issue, but I think from reading the confidential advice, it was a major part of the issue. So officers were, I believe, did their best endeavours and did well in terms of the initial rules, but then these changed halfway through, and sadly we're in this position. So I fully accept your frustration, Councillor Armstrong, but in terms of good use of public money, the risk is too great to not go with the Chair's recommendation.
Any other speakers? No? Can I take vote on this? Is those in favour? Those against? Abstain? Thank you. In respect of recommendation 4 in the report, I would like to propose from the chamber and for them to set out the wording for recommendation 4. Can I have a speaker? Councillor Chilvers?
Chair, are you happy if I take 4 and 5 together?
Through you, Chair, so long as you're clear which option you are taking in option 5 as well. Yes.
Thank you. So recommendation 4 and 5 are about effectively the remedial action that we are going to take. We have been open and honest here that we've made a mistake, as we should be, and then we need to put things right, and that's what 4 and 5 are about. 4 is just saying we cannot now introduce the second homes council tax premium without going through the whole process again. And number 5, 5A is about refunding, and I'd like that to be done, seen that to be done in a timely manner. 5B, I would like to propose 5BI, that we undertake the consultation to go through this process again. So I want to make clear that I am in favour of us introducing a second homes premium, but in a legal and correct manner. I think it is the right thing to do. And 5C, that the Head of Finance brings a report to Cabinet in February 26 on the outcome of that consultation. So I'm recommending 4 and 5, but with 5BI, not 5BII.
Can I have a seconder, please? Yes. Councillor King. Sorry. Any speakers on this? No? We take a vote. Those in favor of 4 and 5? Those against? Abstain? Thank you. The next item is public and press. We now consider excluding the press and public from the meeting for the reasons set out on the agenda. I will propose this from the chair, and Councillor Redford, will you second this?
Yes.
Thank,
I second.
thank you. Those in favor, please. Those against? Abstain? Thank you. So items, common seal, the last item of the business on the agenda is fixing the common seals. Seal as set out, and then I will propose from the chair, and I can see Councillor Davison indicating second agreement. Councillor King, thank you very much, and I'll close the meeting closed. Thank you.